Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer V. Brown, your stroke specialist, and today we're going to talk about vision and give you some pearls of wisdom. I am really great at making these ankle foot orthoses for clients and designing them based on their level of function, their play, work, or daily living activities, but they really didn't walk well until I took a deeper dive into their vision. And so that's why we're going to talk about vision today as it relates to walking. The first common visual impairment that we're going to discuss is visual field loss. So when you're looking out into the world, you may see nothing but darkness. People say it's like I see a black space. The most common is a hemi-inattention, which is number 3, where half of the visual field you cannot see. And if you want to see in that visual field, you have to turn your head so that the eyes that work you can are able to see. The next is a quadrantenopsia, in which a fourth of the visual field is lost. And I usually find when it's in the bottom lower half, either right or left, people trip a lot because they cannot see the foot placement that should occur. And to a lesser extent, I see number 2, and that is a bitemporal hemiplegia when you have your lesion in the center part of your brain and therefore you cannot see on the periphery here. So a quadrantenopsia number 4 and hemi-inattention number 3 and bitemporal hemi-inattention number 2 are the most common ones that I see with stroke. The second common visual impairment is visual neglect versus visual hemi-inattention. This is a neuropsychological problem. It's usually when you have a stroke on the right side of the brain, and it is environmental or person centered in that the person ignores one half of their body or the half of the environment. Okay. They lack awareness of it. And when you think about it, it's like they see, but it's blurry. And so they're not really even aware of anything that's there because it's blurry. Okay. So inattention is the inability to direct attention to items or activities in the space. So they see something, it's there, their visual acuity is fine. But unless you ask them something about what they see, they don't attend to it at all. And so I really, when I'm treating someone with inattention, I purposely put things in their visual field and I ask them about that thing. So they may be stickies up on the wall and it say, find the red sticky with the X on it. And I may have 5 stickies with different letters and they have to scan and look at it and know what an X looks like on the background. So that's truly the difference. So they, and here's the example with the clocks, because they always use this with the clocks for spatial attention and have people draw the 2 o'clock hour. So they'll draw all the numbers on the right, all right, but they're missing the numbers on the left. Or they may place 1 through 12 on the right hand side, but not do anything on the left. And the reason why you see those lines on the top of the clock, because I wanted to pretend like it's being erased and it's blurred. So that would be the neglect. Okay. Next is ocular motor dysfunction, right? And so you may see like double vision, and the double vision can be horizontal, diagonal, or vertical. That's an example. Or you may have a cranial nerve palsy. So this person is looking up, looking to the side, looking down, all right? They're trying to close their eyes, but the one eye will not close. So that's cranial nerve 3 palsy. So those are examples of ocular motor dysfunction. Also, you can have a nystagmus where the eye shakes all the time. It can shake vertically, horizontally, or rotatory in a circle. And the next ocular motor problem is perceptual problems. And the most common is a midline shift. And this is a client that I had. And when he was sitting, his whole head and it would be shifted to one side of his body. It was like his chin was shifted over to the side of his body that was actually working. And it was a midline shift. And it's not that he didn't think his other side existed because he would look in the mirror and I asked him who shaved you and he said I did. And then we showed the mirror. I said, "Did you do a good job?" And he said, "Yes." And then I said, "Well, rub both sides of your face." And then he felt the hair, but he didn't see the hair, right? And so he was this was a perfect example of his visual neglect, his inattention, as well as his midline shift. His whole head was like oriented on one side of his body. It was so obvious when he was walking, especially when he was sitting. So, what are some clinical pearls of wisdom about visual neglect and visual hemi-inattention? It it really is and when I say poor functional outcomes, it's all relative what the poor is, but they're really just not interacting with their environment. But when you bring attention to it, with the hemi inattention, it does get better. But you really have to make an effort to work at it. So, like in people's homes, and they were running into the door, right? And they didn't have a hemianopsia, they just weren't attending to the door frame. So I would do like sparkle things that would dangle from that side of the doorway, or I put red electric tape on that side of the door so that they could attend and say, "Oh, something's coming up. Well, let me look at it and pay attention to see what it is." All right. And these people fall a lot, because they're not, like when they look out, they just see a blur, all right, on that side. And it's not blackness where they not see at all. Because if it was a visual field cut, all they would have to do is turn their head so the part of their eye, their visual field that they see out of, they could scan their environment. So for the visual field cuts, it was a poor functional outcome if they didn't actively scan their head. And why weren't they scanning? Maybe they had a neck weakness problem from cranial nerves, right? Um, but they really did well if they were given prism glasses, right? And so you wear the prism glasses and it brings everything into your field. You don't have to spend so much time scanning your head as you walk. And that would be a compensatory strategy. If they did not scan or did not have access to prism glasses, they would run into objects and they would trip over things, especially with the quadrantenopsias. But they would run into objects because it's all black. They just don't see anything. I must say this though, when with gait training, for the people who had the visual neglect and everything was just a little blur, they would walk, but they were hesitant. They walked like they were walking into fog, like walking into a spider web and they just couldn't get out. And that's what I remember the most about those clients. And when I had a better appreciation of these visual impairments, my training got better for the walking. Um, and I also found I could use a more least restrictive ankle foot orthoses. I did the traditional things like with the elastic spandex strap, but the training was just different. I got much better because I thought of the environment more than the actual technique of the walking itself. I made sure they got the pelvic rotation to increase stride and things like that. But the walking really got better when I paid attention to the environment and taught them how to interact with the environment through anticipatory and reactive postural control techniques. Remember, I am your trusted source for all things ankle foot orthoses and neurorehabilitation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and write a comment. Please share this video also. And don't forget about the references. Evidence-based practice for the best clinical practice. More references for you to use to improve your knowledge and clinical skills. Your last set of references. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.